What is up, guys? Welcome back to another video. Another video means another dopamine hike. Said to buy something to feel something. And for today's video, we have another review. And for today's review, we are taking a look at JOYTOY's Warhammer 40K Heavy Intercessor Marine from Space Marine 2. And we are specifically looking at the Raven Guard variant of this figure today. There are 10 different appearances that you can get this figure in, obviously for the different chapters that you can customize your heavy class to look like in Space Marine 2. And because the Raven Guard is my chapter of choice, I chose that version. And just an FYI for anyone who is wondering, there's no difference amongst the 10 variants besides the visuals. Everyone comes with the same accessories and has the same articulation. It's just all cosmetic, just so you can have your chapter of choice as the Heavy Intercessor. And for anyone new to the channel, this actually isn't my first time reviewing JOYTOY. I just haven't done it in a while. The last time I did was for the Space Wolf Intercessor Marine. And I've been wanting to get into JOYTOY more at the time of the Space Wolf review. That was the only other figure I had besides the Blood Angel, but now I have more of the Intercessors that were part of that wave, and now I'm getting into the other figures JOYTOY is putting out. Like, they just recently did a Raven Guard line, and I bought most of those figures because I love the Raven Guard. And then there was this figure that we're reviewing today, and there's an upcoming Intercessor Marine for the Mark X armor, and I obviously bought the Raven Guard variant of that. And it's just, I really like JOYTOY. They're a bit pricey, but the quality for what you get is definitely worth it. I just definitely have to work on spacing out my purchases from JOYTOY. But enough yapping and more Heavy Intercessor. At any point during or after the video, you do realize you want to pick up this figure for yourself, you can at a handful of locations online. I will obviously leave links in the description of the video so you can access those websites. But starting off with All Reliable for $39.99, we have the JOYTOY website. Then for a whopping $44.99, we have Entertainment Earth. For $42.99, we have the Big Bad Toy Store. And finally, for a actual surprisingly $35.99, we have Amazon. Again, links will be in the description of the video. So with all that said, I don't think there's anything else to add, so let's open up this bad boy. So when it comes to the packaging, it's our standard JOYTOY Warhammer packaging. We got the guy in the front, we got the 1/18 scale, the title, everything you need to know. Got a nice little portrait on the side with the title, and then on the other side is a bunch of words and stuff for licensing and all that. And on the back we have some more photos, some more words, the Space Marine 2 logo, everything to kind of show off what to expect from this figure, or what we should see. And then going back to the front, you know, everything looks good. And with all that said, let's open up this bad boy. So right out of the box, when it comes to visual presentation, I can confirm that this is a good looking figure. And out of all of the figures and series that I have reviewed on this channel, I'd have to say JOYTOY's Warhammer figures are probably the ones that turned me into a huge hypocrite. And what I mean by this is most of, if not all, the figures that I do review on this channel are some kind of combative, militaristic, soldier-like kind of characters that obviously wear armor and, you know, obviously should have wear and tear, you know, battle damage, grit, gunk, whatever you want to call it. I just preach that you give the figure as much appropriately as possible to really make the figure feel alive, make the armor really feel used and worn. It's just something that I am a sucker for, and I will forever blame the McFarlane Halo figures for that. But when it comes to these JOYTOY Warhammer figures, they're very clean, they're very sleek. It's a stylistic choice that I'm actually all for. And I think because of that, I'm okay with it. Like, if it was like McFarlane's Warhammer figures where they're painfully flat because of lack of effort, then I'd have an issue. But because they do this as part of the figure's design, it actually looks good. And I mean, there's other parts of the figure that aren't just a flat color, like there is texture amongst the paintwork. We have some silver that gives some nice metallic shine here with the skull and wings, some bolts on the plating, the trim on the boots, wiring on the rear legs, and then the bits and pieces on the backpack of our figure. And obviously there's other colors on this figure as well. We have white on both pauldrons, red on the right pauldron. We have red for the lenses, and it's a nice transparent red as well. And then for the crest on the backpack, it's a nice metallic gold. Oh, and how can I forget the brown for the belt? Like, everything on this figure feels painted. This figure feels fully covered from head to toe. It doesn't feel like they left something out and it's like obvious. If there is something that they missed, I can't tell. I just think the paint application is great. When it comes to the sculpt work on this figure, just like with the paint work, it's very full of life. There's nothing feels untouched or left out. For instance, with the armor, I love all the different parts that layer and panel over each other. And 3 really good examples of this on this figure are the forearms, the torso, stomach area, and the legs. Now you can see armor layering and paneling elsewhere on this figure, but again, those 3 are probably my 3 favorite examples. Another thing that I found myself really impressed with JOYTOY is the crest on the chest plate of the figure. The skull is sculpted really well. It's got teeth, it's got the nostrils, it's got the brow, and I love how the feathers on the wings are layered. That's just really minute detail that they could have easily skimped out on, and they didn't. And one thing that I think JOYTOY handled really well when it came to balancing visuals and practicality is the wiring on the rear legs. Like, I have no issue with them visually. I think they look really good, and they don't limit the articulation in the legs, which is just an absolute win. And I can definitely make this segment much longer than it needs to be. So just to kind of wrap it up, one thing that the poor sculptor, whoever sculpted these figures, I don't know if they had a machine do it or not, but if someone had to hand sculpt these, the amount of line work from all the different vents and the lines in the undersuit and under the boots, just I pray for you, man. That's a lot of individual lines you gotta put in, and it is impressive, you know, the line work on this figure, so props to you guys. So kicking off articulation, you can get a 360-degree rotation if the dome piece around the head wasn't there, but the range is still good. I mean, again, you can get 360 degrees. It's just kind of a pain in the ass to do so. And then we can sway the head side to side, and you can slightly bring the head up and down as well. And then moving over to the arm, you can rotate it up and over 360 degrees. And then you can bring the arm up and down a decent amount. And as for trying to bring it up and down 180 degrees the other way, it's not the best, but there's some movement. And there is a butterfly joint in the shoulder, so you can move the arm forward a bit more if need be. And the pauldrons are actually on a ball joint, so they can be articulated as well. Seeing here, you can bring them back and forth, and you can also swing the pauldron side to side as well. And then from the elbow down, you can rotate the arm 360 degrees. And then when it comes to the elbow bend, we have some nice double jointed elbows that allow us to go past the 90-degree mark. And just be careful with the elbow bend on this figure. For me, this little piece of armor was falling out only on the left arm, to be specific. The right arm, it was fine, so just keep that in mind. And then finally, you can rotate the hands 360 degrees and bend the wrist however you please. And then when it comes to the torso, you can get a full 360-degree rotation. And the upper and lower half of the torso can rotate independently from each other for even more range, which is always nice to see. And then we can sway the torso back and forth. And then finally for the torso, we can sway it side to side as well. And then when it comes to the legs, we can't get a full 360-degree rotation due to the chunky armor, but the range is organic enough for you to get some nice poses out of this figure. And for a Space Marine, the splittage on this figure isn't awful by any means. And in the thigh area, we can get some nice pivoting action as well. And moving down to the knee, we can actually get a really nice knee bend out of this figure. Again, especially for a Space Marine being in that chunky armor. And then when it comes to the boot, we can pivot the boot a good amount. I would say you can probably rotate this 360 degrees if the armor wasn't in the way, but I can't confirm that. But again, the pivot isn't awful. And then we can bring the boot up and down an alright amount. And then finally, we can articulate the toes of the boot for further balancing of this figure. And then kicking off the segment, we have the backpack. Obviously, this is part of the figure's design, so it's not like an additional, thing. It is supposed to be there, and it goes on with a simple peg and peg hole method, and that thing is not coming off. It is on there nice and sturdy. And then we have some swappable hands included, giving us a total of 5 hands. We have 2 closed fists, 2 trigger fingers, and 1 open/holding hand. And then for our first weapon included, we do have this nice bolt pistol. It's got a pretty simple paint job of being made up of black and a nice metallic silver. And for the sculpt work, I'm very impressed. There's a bunch of detail, whether it's the ejection ports, all the different buttons and switches, or the grip on the handle, or even the muzzle on the end. I just love the amount of detail that they put into this accessory. And for our second weapon included in the main attraction of the two, we have the heavy bolt rifle. And as for the paint job on this weapon, it's very similar to the bolt pistol, mostly being made up of a metallic silver and black, but there's other colors included on this as well. It's like a gold color for the bullets in the magazine, and then red and white for the purity seal at the end of the rifle. And just like with the bolt pistol, the level of detail when it comes to the sculpt work is great. There's all these different buttons and switches. There's texture when it comes to the forward or hand grip, and even on the stock. I love that the receiver has all the little details that you would typically see on your bolt rifle. I love that each individual bullet in the magazine is sculpted, and I obviously love the muzzle and the purity seal, just tiny little things that are getting a bunch of detail. It's just always great to see. And one feature of the heavy bolt rifle is that the box magazine is detachable, so if you want to display your Space Marine reloading or do some toyography with him reloading, you can do that. And how could I forget the best accessory included, and that is the stand. It's just your generic clear stand with a peg for the peg hole on the bottom of the foot of the figure. Nothing too crazy. We've obviously seen this before, and don't get me wrong, I'm all about toy companies, obviously action figure, brands specifically, including stands with our figures. It's just convenient when the figure comes with one, and it's always nice to see. But ironically, I just think this is like the one figure or one series of figures that don't need stands. Space Marines have big bulky boots and are kind of heavy enough to support themselves, so it just ironically, I don't think I'm gonna be using this for this figure, but nonetheless it is appreciated that one is included. I'm never gonna knock that. And then here we are at the turntable segment of the video, pretty much where I go over what I like, dislike, pros, cons, strengths, weaknesses, anything like that. Just give my general thoughts and opinions on the figure, give you all something to bounce off of and go down in the comment section below and get a conversation started. And obviously I'll reply to most of y'all's comments because I love talking about this stuff clearly. And I always kick this segment off with the sour. I like to get the negative out of the way because I don't like dwelling on the negative any longer than I already have to. And when it comes to this figure, there's just two very tiny things that come to mind. The first one being that elbow armor that just wouldn't stay on the right arm. I don't know if that's just a me issue or if anyone else is having that issue, but it is kind of a bummer when I'm trying to pose them and that thing pops off. Obviously I can put it back on easily, so it's not the end of the world. And the second and very minute issue that I have with this figure is my stand actually does not want to work with my figure. I don't know if it's an issue with the peg hole or the peg, but they don't want to work. So like I said in talking about the stand, the figure is fortunately bulky enough to not need one, but if you did want to display your figure with this stand, for me, or if I wanted to, I should say, I wouldn't be able to. Again, not the end of the world because I'm not going to, but it is something that did happen and I figured I should mention. And then moving on over to the positives, there's a lot that I like about this figure personally. Obviously in the visual presentation area, I liked everything that was going on. I liked this very clean, sleek look that JOYTOY gives their Warhammer figures. I thought the sculpt work was amazing. It felt like nothing was left untouched. And as for articulation, very happy with the range that we are given here. It feels like everything had a nice wide range of motion. Nothing felt limited in the armor, especially since Space Marines have very big, bulky armor. I was impressed with the range that we were given. And as for accessories, what we got is pretty standard for JOYTOY, but I do enjoy the fact that A, we got a stand, which I think more companies should do. B, we got swappable hands for different, poses and ways to display our figure. And as for the weapons, we did get a standard primary and secondary, but I really do like that the primary, the heavy bolt rifle, is interactive in the sense that you can remove the box magazine. So if you wanted to display him reloading the rifle, you can do so. And then a more gray area for discussion is the price. Looking at where you can pick up this figure, you're going to either spend a little over or a little under $40 for this figure, and some might think that's a little pricey, especially because JOYTOY is based in China and tariffs and all that might affect the price, like Entertainment Earth and the Big Bad Toy Store, for example. Me personally, I think $40 flat for the retail price is a perfect medium. Anything more is personally too much. Obviously there's going to be tax and shipping as well, but as for just the base price for the figure alone, I think $40 is a fine medium. I mean, we get 2 weapons, a stand, and some swappable hands. And for $40, you can get a NECA figure, which comes with roughly the same amount of accessories, maybe a little bit more depending on the character. But for $40 and all that's included, you can get a NECA figure. Or for a more casual example, there's Hasbro's Star Wars The Black Series Mandalorian and Grogu 2-pack that recently came out, and that comes with a bunch of stuff, and that's only priced at $35. So again, I think $40 is the most I would go for picking up this figure. But after all that, I'm curious to hear what you guys think about this figure, whether you like it or dislike it. Whatever you think, please put it down in the comment section below, because I will most likely reply to y'all's comments, because I do love talking about this stuff. But with all that said, that has been the JOYTOY Warhammer 40K Heavy Intercessor Space Marine from Space Marine 2, specifically the Raven Guard appearance. And like I said in the intro of the video, at any point during or after this video, you realize you want to pick up this figure for yourself, there will be links in the description to some websites where you can pick up this figure. And if you haven't caught on yet, I absolutely recommend this figure, especially if you do love collecting Warhammer figures. Me personally, I kind of got tired of collecting McFarlane Warhammer figures because the quality was always so inconsistent and not always great to really begin with. But with JOYTOY, everything is consistent. The quality is great in all departments. I love the visuals. The articulation has never disappointed me, and I feel like they're very fair with the accessories included. And as far as pricing goes, at least when it comes to standard crown troops, I feel like JOYTOY was very fair with the pricing. I know if you get some of the more quirky or unique characters that come with more unique equipment, the pricing can vary. So like, you know, I will get into that in another review on JOYTOY that I am planning. But as far as the pricing for this figure alone compared to what McFarlane is pricing their figures for, this is very fair. And after all that, I hope you enjoyed today's video. A like and a subscription would be greatly appreciated. You already know how I feel about y'all commenting, but if you don't want to, I get it. It's a lot of effort. And don't worry about the bell, because we both know that shit is broken. And at any point, you know, you want to check out more stuff, I am planning on doing more Warhammer videos now that I've started purchasing JOYTOY more. But I do have 2 JOYTOY figure reviews up already if you want to go check those out. But I also do other stuff. If you like Star Wars, Halo, Alien, Predator, Alien vs Predator, I have reviews on those franchises, so feel free to go check those out. And with all that said, please have a great day and stay hydrated. It's important.